My name is Chris Becker. I am excited to be here and share this with you. I'll sort of go over this in my deck a little bit, but we'll give people a couple minutes to fold in. This workshop should be pretty fun. We're going to be jumping into things. I'll be sharing a few things in the chat. One of those will be this deck, and so here, let me just like share this presentation. All of you can view it. I can copy that. This is for you guys later. I can also share an email that goes out to everyone after this. The core of this is I'll also be sharing a Figjam board later, but I'll wait till I get to my lecture to sort of share that. And then we will also be using Visual Electric or other AI tool. I don't really care which one you use to render this, but if you want to speed yourself up and go here and create an account, that will make the workshop piece a little smoother, just speed us up a little bit, which could be helpful. There will be a lot of people, so I don't mind chatting and talking to you. It sounds like you can all hear me, but just from a presentation perspective, let's stay on mute, and then we can make sure that there's disruptions. But if you absolutely have a question, like, come off, you can ask it. Like, this is more of a conversation. Do not feel like it's me sort of talking at you. That's not my goal, but it will be a number of people. So it could be a little bit more sort of challenging to do that. So that's what the chat is great for, right? Let's sort of get in there. We have some people from Philadelphia and Simieville. I'm in Los Angeles myself. And then hopefully there's enough people that sort of pile in here. Yeah, as I said, we'll give people a couple minutes to fold in, and then we'll get sort of started. Oh, Canada. Great white north. Nikki, you weren't willing to say exactly where in California? Oh, it's Mika. Hi, friend. Toronto, perfect. So as I was mentioning, here I'll sort of advance this thing a little bit forward. As people sort of fold in, we're going to have a pretty packed day, a pretty packed hour. And it's going to take up about, so the way this is sort of going to break down. I'll introduce myself, talk to you a little bit about what we're going to do today in this workshop. I'll spend the first 10 to 15 minutes sort of getting into the concept of sketching first, and then we'll jump into Figjam as an activity and sort of practice what I'm talking about. And that's the whole point of this sort of workshop as a whole. It should be pretty fun to sort of see how many people can sort of get into our experience. We're going to maybe max out Figjam as a whole. If you haven't ever used Figjam, that's fine. There's no problem. It should be pretty straightforward. And then we'll be using, as I said, Visual Electric or other AI tool that you have sort of wanted to use. And those could be ones that are on your, if you look in the invite to this event, there's also some apps like Doodle Labs and some other things like that. Again, the AI tool is somewhat less inconsequential, but there's this opportunity to sort of see how they render things very different. And then we'll end with a little bit of a QA, depending on how long the sort of output sort of takes. And then if you have questions or you want to sort of reach out, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me. I mentor through this output. But we'll give people one more minute. We're going to 1:05 until we can sort of get started, and then I'll sort of plow through this. I think I can do the chat here, just so I can see everyone. Okay. So as I was saying, if you want to follow along with this lecture, we'll be here, and then I'll be sharing a Figjam in a little bit. And if you want to go create an account in Visual Electric as we get started. But I think 5 minutes is enough to let people come through. I don't know if this, I wish this would sort of tell you how many people are here, but we're going to get going. So welcome, as I was saying, this is sketching first ideation, a case for sketching first in user experience design, and using AI as an assistant in your ideation process. My name is Chris Becker. I am a senior user experience designer, product designer I have a master's degree from the ArtCenter College of Design here in Pasadena. And I mentor with Designlab, who I'm excited to sort of give this workshop with. If you're coming through the Designlab ecosystem, great. If you're just here because you were shared this in socials or whatever, I'm also excited to sort of share this with you. I'm excited for this workshop. Lots of stuff. You can reach out to me as you go. As I was saying, we're going to have this little outputs. My background, in my previous role, I was working with an agency known as Better, where we stood up with some outputs. I also am a former curriculum architect with Trilogy, with 2U, which was Trilogy Education Services. I teach at the ArtCenter College of Design, and as well as mentor here and with ADP List. I've written a book, which I'll share in the channel, in the chat at the end, with along with other sort of other things that are there. Again, I'll share this thing if you want to sort of check out these things. I write on Medium. I've written some stuff, and I sort of find design really relevant and output in our world. This was the stuff that we were sort of doing with Better. We helped stand up the Alley app, which was through Allergan Aesthetics. I do a number of things for sort of pointing the North Star for that company as a consultant. So what we're going to talk about today is sketching first, and I'm a huge advocate for sketching. I've written about this in UX Collective articles. This workshop may actually ultimately get turned into another article, depending on how well you guys do on our workshop. But I'm excited to sort of get you all in there. And what we're actually going to do is spend some time sort of talking conceptually about why sketching matters and how it's sort of important in the realm of design, and then how that sketching skill is actually becoming more and more relevant and actually really exciting in some of the space of what AI can sort of do for you or help you and assist you in your sort of process. So let's get going. So let's start at the beginning. Ideation is the early stages of generating a solution for an idea, right? It's the process of forming ideas from conception into implementation. And it's a long sort of process to some extent, and sometimes it's wrangled up in the idea of creativity. Anyone can ideate. I think this is this idea that only designers can like make stuff, and that's like total BS. Like we may have specific skills that are aligned to helping move ideas, or we actually may get paid to do more ideation, which is great, but it takes practice and is reliant on a number of things to do. And ideation can start on paper.
Oh my God, he does so much damage.
Yeah, if you go on mute, that would be great. One of the things that we also sort of love about ideation is obviously there's a quote from Johnny Ive. What I love about the creative process is that it may sound naive, but one day there was no idea and no solution, but the next day there is. And like that's the role that designers play. And it's sort of remarkable. I sort of love this quote because it encapsulates this idea of like, what does it mean to make stuff? And making things is really hard, but if we use our skills and the things that we do, it really can start at the lowest and the fastest means possible. And so there's three general stages to the ideation process. One is the generation. Like, how do you make ideas? And that there's a lot sort of written about and talked about in this like idea of like what makes creative people, how do you generate ideas? There's lots of methods associated around it with design thinking and those outputs, including things like Scamper and mind mapping and crazy eights and what if they like they wish. All these methods are just strategies for sort of pulling at the threads of our existence and our experiences and generating things that can somewhat be associated with solving problems, right? Or being inventive or being, you know, innovative, as I said. Like there's a lot of people like, let's be innovative. And they're like, well, how do you do that? And the answer is nobody really, like we sort of have figured out ways, but if you're saying we have to force innovation, it's just not gonna work, like most of the time, right? There's this opportunity to say that you have to build an environment that has people who know how to generate good ideas, and the good ideas can then be selected. Then you have to have equally as many people involved in selecting. You can have lots of ideas, but some of them aren't doable. But the selection process can be very collaborative. It can be using things like 2x2 matrices, dot voting, stack ranking. There's a number of things, all sort of aligning in the way at which we sort of design and build. And then at its core, there's the role of development, right? Developing ideas through agile software development, through design thinking, it all sort of aligns in the same sort of idea of like moving things to market and moving ideas out of the stage of just like a pencil drawing and into the hands of your users. Now, if you're not familiar with Paul Lasso's design funnel, it's sort of I always like these like things that speak to the power of a simple graphic, but the design process essentially is about elaborating on stuff and then reducing it to a focal point, which is selling it at a market, right? And the elaboration process is very hard. But if you start early with sketching or drawing or making things that sort of can move at speed and pace, that allows you to create the largest funnel of things that can then be chosen and focal and built down into a focal point. Now, this is going to be a little challenging with so many people, but let's maybe just in the Slack channel, like who likes to draw or doodle or sketch? If you put it in the chat, like or you give thumbs up or whatever, I don't know if we can see those, but me, Olivia, okay. Did anyone get into design because or into UX because they sort of like to think visually with their hands? Like I like to sketch, yeah. And again, like the role of design, and this is a sketch I had sort of done for a workshop that I built on like making teams do the exquisite corpse. Has anyone done an exquisite corpse? It's like a drawing game when you fold it over. Again, it's about visually thinking through problems and outputs. Now, one of my favorite quotes is from Le Corbusier, the famous sort of modernist architect and godfather of sort of modernism, is I prefer drawing to talking. Drawing is faster and it leaves less room for lies. And he was sort of famous for not only just the drawings that he did in his sort of lectures and outputs, but he would draw on the whiteboard. He like had to think visually, and he even made like representations of the human body, which architects have to think human-centered and how they sort of build and create things. Now, the reality is a pencil and paper are really fast thinking tools. And they are tools. They are the root of the things at which we make with. And we learn to use a pencil and paper from the ages like I have a 4.5-year-old learning to write. It takes a while to sort of get the muscle memory down to sort of align to that. But to communicate faster is sort of aligned in these set of tools that we build. And anymore, you can sort of draw on like an iPad. I have one here to the right of me that I use pretty regularly. But it essentially is able to capture and communicate a wide range of things, a wide range of outputs that we can sort of design and understand. And one of the reasons that drawing can be so relevant is that drawing is thinking. It is literally the idea of making a note or putting thinking to action, right? And part of what drawing can really do is it takes some practice, but what it can really do is with simple shapes, boxes, circles, squares, stick figures, you can capture action or emotion or outputs. With more practice and more ability, you can sort of capture scenes. You can tell a story, you can do storyboarding. And most of us sort of get wrapped with an idea that our drawings or our sketches have to be realistic renderings of the world. And that is a highly specialized skill. I have artist friends who can go, like I even went to art school. I was never really that great at doing the rendering, but when I meet friends who can do this, it's great. But the practice of drawing and thinking is what we sort of align to. Now, part of the reason that I sort of talk about this is that technology has impacted our thinking, right? We build with tools like Figma and all these things, but they are fundamentally a force that impacts the way we think. And screens, i.e. things like applications and whatever, phones and all this stuff have been a dominant force for how we make. And the role that those things play can sort of impact the way ideas move into the world. Now, technology obviously helps us do and think, right? A phone or a computer or any of these things sort of have this, and we have these these paradigms that we sort of align to. And the more that we can sort of make the computer disappear, or the computer, or you're just be able to do the thinking the way that you're sort of used to, that sort of helps. And of course, I've written a number of things on this, but the role at which drawing and thinking kind of get involved is that you can allow the computer to do things for you that you can't do before, right? Or couldn't do with space. Now, I'm a huge advocate for showing your sketching and the thinking process because it matters, right? Whether it's, like the kernel of ideas is what you want to see. And there's a lot of this opportunity to sort of show your sketch of what was the kernel into the final idea. we all have to build case studies and do stuff to sort of exemplify what our skills are, but the design process is sometimes messy. The sketch can be in your notebook or on a napkin and could be the output of which is really worth sharing or moving into the world. And with sketching, you can move stuff faster. Here's an example of a sketch that I'd done with a small team in my previous role, and in working with a really talented UI designer. We can move a sketch into a final solution in an afternoon or in a day, in like an hour. And this is for pitch work that fundamentally was one. Now, the role that sketching can play is that it's at the beginning. It's not precious. It should be sort of aligned to thinking through a problem, and it fundamentally is ephemeral, which is good, right? You're not falling in love with the idea because you haven't spent too much time on it, or it's been there as a way to think through the options. And sketching and drawing are a fundamental way at which to sort of do that thinking first, and then use the computer to execute. I'll say this till the day I die. Tools like Figma are execution tools. They are not that great at sort of helping you organize and structure the ideas. The other thing that's great about sketching is it's fast and it's cheap. Paper and pencil, you're like, I mean, sometimes you talk about like drawing on an iPad is probably not the same sort of like, the opportunity cost is still pretty high there, but the role at which the time you can spend to do it helps you eliminate and build out the options. And if the idea sucks, you can throw it away. It's actually can be kind of cathartic. Like, oh, that sucked. Like I can throw it away. It takes time. Now, of course, like anything, drawing takes some practice. You will not be good at it, or it'll be slower if you are not practiced or sort of find it to be an output. But there can be that opportunity. Now, in the world that we sort of are occupying now, which we'll practice in a little bit, is that sketching as a concept can now be enhanced through a computer or an AI assistive model. And there's lots of things that sort of exist in space, but some of them are quite exciting. We'll sort of explore some of them today. But there's this idea of like an AI or a machine learning model that improves your drawing, right? Like you don't have to be able to render a cat the way that the world can render it, but you can get close, and then the computer can sort of move it forward or iterate it for you, or you can make things that sort of use the sort of totality of a drawing plus language that describes it, that allows a computer to then produce outputs that you could maybe not do on your own, or that would take longer as an artist or designer. Those things are. And that's the role at which we sort of play. I will argue this till the day whatever. I'll continue to say this over and over again, but an AI is not it's not a replacement for any thinking human or designer. It should be operated in an assistive model. And designers that can wield these tools in meaningful ways can make things faster and with more gusto and align to them, right? And the fun thing about that is that sometimes it's surprising, right? Like your ability to say, hey, what does that result in? You couldn't have done that any other way without sort of using these tools. And we'll sort of talk about that. Now, there are lots of generative things out there. There's experiments, including things like from Google, like draw a bear, or like how you draw and it like assists it for you, or these apps that sort of like can make art with simple lines and drawings and renderings. And the world that's sort of in this space is constantly growing and constantly getting better. And we're going to improve on that as we sort of go. So with that, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna share out a Figjam board that we're all gonna go do, and we're gonna practice this realm of sketching. If you haven't used Figjam before, that's totally fine. But here is the render. So I've given everyone a space, and I'll sort of talk about this as we go. But here's an opportunity. Everyone jump in here, and everyone can edit, right? Just making sure I'm doing this one. Anyone can edit. Okay, Lindsay Rivera, I see you. Oh, hi, she's my mentor student. Cool. We're in here. So I'm gonna come over here just to sort of set some basic rules, and then we'll get started. And you can give some high fives if you rub your hand, like woo, woo, woo. Yeah. Okay, so the first of all, let's just talk about using Figjam effectively. One, let's respect each other's workspaces. So we're gonna everyone's gonna sort of claim a landing space to work in. It doesn't matter where yours is, but this is your sort of drawing space that we're gonna sort of own. You can own it by dragging out a Post-it note. And let me move this so you guys don't have to see it. You can drag out a Post-it note And if you zoom in, add your location and make sure that this show and hide author is on your post-it note. Does that make sense? So you can be like, I'm in Los Angeles. And it shows that I'm Chris Becker, and you can make this extra huge, whatever. And then you could put this on a space that's down here. And I've given there's 200 of these. I don't know if 215 people. If you need more, you can drag a space out there that is as you need, but it's here. But what we're gonna do. So everyone go grab a space. I'm gonna show you that we are gonna spend around 7 minutes drawing a prompt. And I have a prompt over here for you to all start on. And I'll hit the whatever timer in a second, but we're gonna choose a space, add your name, your location, and your name onto that little card, and then using the pen tool, the marker drawing tool, I want you to draw in that space, and we're gonna spend 7 minutes doing it. And what I want everyone to draw is a dwelling in outer space. Everybody clear on the prompt? Okay, if you are, you can sort of give thumbs up in the widgets and other things like that. But okay, ready? And I'm going to give you 7 minutes to draw a dwelling in space in Figjam. Ready? All right, and start. And I'm going to claim a space too. I'm going to draw right here next to Julian. I'm going to grab out these. I'm going to make it orange. Post in this. Okay. And now we're going to draw dwelling in space. All right. I'm going to make a helmet. For dome. Okay. Closer needs a satellite dish. Okay. There's a moon in the background. We need some stardust. All right. Here's my drawing. I'm gonna go see some other people's. Okay. Here's. Ooh, here you go. On a planet. Yep. Circles. Good. Oh, hey, friend. All right. Everybody's
Hey,
got a
Chris, could you
space.
share the link, please?
Oh, it's in the chat if you have it, but I can share it again. And I'll give people, you have a little less time, but that's okay. I'm just going to capture a screenshot here. So. You guys, well, I could turn on some ambient tunes, but I'll just let that be a sleeping dog lie. What's going on over here? I'm gonna grab this, get rid of it. didn't steal anyone's drawing space. Ooh. Yeah. Good. Okay. House. Yep. On a moon. Good. Ooh, this one's nice. Oh, yeah. All right. There's got a biodome there. Good. TP. Cool. Yeah. Don't feel like you only have to have just black and white. If you're feeling inclined, you can change the color of your marker or these things as you need. Maggie. Ooh, yeah. Getting some green grass and space. Nice. Okay. New Orleans, Mindy. Good. I'm finding the where people are capturing space sort of funny in the things I've laid out. Like Dan, you chose the bottom rug. It's fine. It's great down here. I like what you got going on over here. So you have a nice rock comment sketch, which is cool. Okay, we have 90 seconds left, so just consider the last bit of things you're going to do to finish off your drawing. I'm just zooming around to some of these to sort of see what's there. Good. Ooh, okay. Yeah, really making it look like Earth. From Amanda in Cincinnati. Good. Got it. Okay, here's mine. I did this in a short amount of time. Okay, David Jones is over here. Got it. Oh, we got an alien over here. Nice. Yes, Joanne, alien. Got it. Perfect. Okay, the last 5 seconds. Anybody need some more time? If you need some more time, just holler. Okay, so drawing of a dwelling in space in 7 minutes. We're going to go around some of these just to see if we sort of captured this concept. Everybody feel like they were able to get what they needed in 5 minutes, 7 minutes technically? Like we even got to a place where some people are starting to add color and some rendering of some shades, right? On a thing in sky. Here's a really weird looking house thing, which is great, but still recognizable as a house in 5 minutes. And even if you think this is the best drawing you've ever done in your life. Here we could, if you want, you can come around here. Let's just explore this for 2 minutes since we have a little bit of time. We're gonna do 2 minutes. Grab out the stamp tool and go around to some other people's, and if you really like their drawing, just like add a heart. to the space. Don't add it onto their drawing because we're going to be doing something with it later, but you can sort of stamp some people's stuff with a +1 or a heart. It's up to you. Just sort of go give some love to some other people's stuff that you sort of seeing that you like, that you're here, like, ooh, like this one, like from Amanda Wagner. Yeah, you got a biodome and it's looking good. I'm gonna give you a +1. Okay, +1. Getting it. And if you hold it down, I think it gets bigger. Yeah. If you just hold the thing down. The stamp that you give people will get bigger or smaller. Now, some of you, honestly, we're drawing with our keypads in some cases, or with a Wacom. Anybody have a Wacom tablet that they're drawing with on the side to like make their rendering a little bit more useful in Figma or in Figjam? These spaces. Ooh, here's a. Ooh, I like this. It's like got a weird alien arm or something. Yeah. Okay, good. Now, again, 7 minutes, not a lot of time, but essentially rendering an idea to what we need, right? Any of you like, oh, if I was to draw this again, I could do it a little differently, or I would take something out, or I would change it. No? Okay, so what we're gonna do next, these are looking great. We're sort of exploring around a lot of these. I'll sort of share them as we go. Ooh, this one's like very traditional house. Like this is like a it's like a house from oh, if you haven't, make sure to your name's here. Oh, from New Orleans. It's like you're like have a like a man, like one of those old mansions in the New Orleans area on the moon, which is great. Good. As you can see, weird shapes, domes. Oh, this dog has a space helmet. Great. Good. Again, lots of these things that we could do. Now what we're gonna do. So if you have not done so already, I'm gonna put this back in the output, but I want everyone to come into Visual Electric, or if you have another AI tool that you've sort of used and done before, go make an account here and open up a new render page. So it's a free service. I don't know if it'll be free for much longer. That's just the nature of a lot of these AI tools. But we're gonna experiment or play with using this, and we're gonna take our drawing. So we have our starting place, right? Whether it's this output, and we're going to then redraw it. If you want to make any fixes, like, oh, you know what? I don't want my door to be curved. I want it to be squared. Or I need a window in my door, or whatever. There's other things that you could maybe iterate on in your initial drawing. And we're going to add that into Visual Electric using the drawing tool, doing the same. And I'll sort of go back into Figjam just to show you the sort of procedure. Over here, we're going to take our original drawing and we're going to redraw it into Visual Electric using the drawing tool. And then we're going to add a super descriptive prompt that's associated with our drawing. And then we're going to choose a style. I don't care what style you have in this particular render. I chose the crafts and the claymation version, and it rendered out from my drawing these executions. And I'm going to put on the timer. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this because you have another around 5 minutes to redraw your drawing and another 5 minutes to write out a prompt and then allow it to render. And how do we redraw it? Just like you drew it here. There's the tools in the outputs. So you're just going to redraw your thing. Does this make sense? So here's the tools to redraw. Yeah, select a new canvas. And I can show you, like, if you'll end up in this space and it'll say, give me a new canvas. And you can see I've already started mine, but I want to show you drawing it from scratch. But maybe I'll also open mine that has my original idea. And then we will render out what we're going to do and take a screenshot of your render, add it to your page, and add it to the space down here. Any questions here? You're not going to be using Figjam in this moment. You're going to go into Visual Electric. I will show you. I'm going to make some iterations to my drawing, or I may even redraw it just to show you sort of its options. And I'm going to do it in my new page here, my new canvas, and then here is where draw out your drawing, make a new render and outputs, and I'll set a timer for us in Figjam. Any questions here?
How do we erase in Visual Electric?
You can select and delete.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Obviously, very different drawing tools, but still
tools to
able to sort
appear.
of... You don't see the drawing tools should be here in the
It says
upper right.
enter the prompt. It doesn't show the same things that's on your screen.
So in creating a canvas, you should have these tools up here to the left and then a prompt. And then you can select your sketch tool and your size. Hopefully that's where you were able to.
I see. You have to click off the prompt thing and close out of the tour, and then
Correct.
it'll appear. Okay,
Yes.
got it. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to move quickly beyond the tour and sort of get into the sort of standard space of this, and I'll sort of show you how this works in Visual Electric. But let me go into Designlab, and I'm going to give us 10 minutes for this. And then that'll just sort of prompt me here. So I'm going to give us 10 minutes for this. I'll give you a warning when it's done, and you can sort of watch me sort of draw my thing again as just in the video space. And I'm excited to see what everyone sort of creates. Now, the idea is that you're going to be taking your original drawing, making improvements on it in Visual Electric, and then adding a prompt to render and outputs. You're going to have to redraw it. Sorry, it says I missed how to transfer our drawing. You're going to take this exact thing. You could screen capture it and see if that puts it in there. But I would say redraw your output, if that makes sense. Again, we're practicing sketching, so iteration is the key to sketching. Here, let me hit the timer. 10 minutes. Everyone good? Any other questions? We'll sort of get this started as we go. And I will show you on my screen. As I was saying, there's a number of AI tools. I had started this or done this exercise with a tool called Scribbled Diffusion, which was a little easier, sort of faster thing, but they deprecated it, and you can see its sample, but you can't go use it anymore, and that's why we're using Visual Electric. Same sort of concept though, but there's this one. There's some tools on your phone, as I referenced in the sketching links on here. There's Doodle Lab's AI generator art, and there's one for Android as well. And this sort of happens on you, like on the phone interface. So if you want to draw with your fingers on your phone versus your keypad, that's fine. But we're going to get started here. Okay, I'll show you how I'm going to render this. So I had my brush size a little big, so I'm going to make it a little smaller. And I'm going to render.
Sorry, Chris, how did you get to that page from Visual Electric main page, please?
So in your main page, you create a new canvas.
Correct.
And then when you select into the canvas and you get past the intro, it should allow you to draw.
Oh,
by
okay.
selecting
Mine
the
doesn't
tools.
have that yet. Okay, I found it.
You found it.
I found
Okay.
it.
Great.
Thank you.
So I'm going to make a comment. Juice. And I render my geodesic dome again. I have dreams of living, or at least building, a geodesic dome in my lifetime. Buckminster Fuller is one of my great inspirations. I kind of consider him the first UX designer. Um, okay. Just gonna-
Chris, if your
Yes.
drawing is abstract, how do you verbalize it?
That's a great question. That's a question for the ages. If you have to be able to communicate what it's doing. So think of words that are sort of this is like you have to we'll talk about how we communicate with a computer, right? Like it won't know what zip zap zoop means because that's not a word, right? But if that's the feeling it makes, then you would need to say like it is a swirl with stars and moon dust. Those are things that are renderable. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Here's my door. Here's a window. I need a satellite dish. Okay. This is going to be in the background of a moon. And this has some starry things. Okay. Now, and then maybe I'm going to put I didn't have an astronaut on mine before, so I'm going to make my thing have an astronaut walking on the surface of my planet. Of my comet. Okay. So, with a little bit of time, you can render things a little bit with more detail, right? 5 minutes the first time was slow because you had to think about it. But now that you have a starting place, you can sort of say like, oh, I know how to sort of crank that original idea out, and now I can help it get better. And next, what you do, this has some stars in the background. Maybe the Earth is back here. Okay. And I also need some. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to do this. You guys don't feel like me producing this. Oh, Visual Electric is gonna lag a lot. Sorry. Maybe all of us joining Visual Electric at once is causing them problems, but I'm not sure how to solve that for you to mid. But do the best you can. Again, this is more for practice. You can go back to it as you go, but hopefully that speeds up for you. You have a sort of rendering as a starting place, right? Like this thing that you want to do. And the next thing that you're going to want to do is once you have your drawing completed, you're going to add a prompt. And the more descriptive your prompt is, the better. So mine is a comet with a geodesic dome. Traveling here. Let's look here. It'll even start prompting, giving you some suggestions like trailing behind in deep space with a astronaut. I guess I could say floating with an astronaut in spacewalk. There we go. With Earth and Moon in the background. Okay. Now in here, there is ability to sort of choose its style. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to select for photography because I don't want it to be a photographic style. And I sort of want mine to be illustration. There's lots of these. So what I'm hoping is everyone chooses a little bit different, but I'm going to choose an illustration process that's about fantasy. You know, this seems like a fantastic sort of space that is there. And I want to make sure things are spelled right. Good thing that we have another AI helping us do that. And this is a comment. Not commit, a comment. Okay. So now I have this comment, right? With a geodesic drone trailing behind a deep space with an astronaut in spacewalk with Earth and the moon in the background. Okay. That may be what I want from the description. We can sort of modify this stuff as we go. But I'm going to render this for you to show you how it sort of functions. And what I want you to do is wrap up your drawings, do this, and then take a screenshot of your outputs. But I'm going to do it first. So I'll show you what this sort of looks like. So it's going to render out. Hopefully this does it fast.
Chris, does it not observe your drawing and based on your drawing draw for you? Because I feel like it's drawing based on the prompt I gave it, not based on my drawing at all.
So that's what we're going to discuss a little bit.
Thank you.
There are other AI tools. Again, this is one that sort of like is leaning maybe heavier on certain aspects of your output, but it should sort of try and render some of the things that are here. And some of this may be the way in which your output is designed. If that makes sense. It's not a perfect system. But that's why we experiment with it. Okay, so this is going to get close. And what I want everyone to do is I just want you to take a screenshot of your rendering. I'm going to screenshot that one for now, and then I'm also going to show you this other canvas that I had because it's going to produce different things every time. Here's another one. And then what I want us all to do is take your, go back into Figjam and over here to the right, drop your screenshots into our screen space. You can make them a little bigger just so we can sort of see them. And then on your drawings, make sure to add a post-it note. With the same thing, your location, and turn on the author, just so we know who did it. Do that. Also, select all your objects and group them. Just makes life easier. Objects, group. Grouped. No, I think it grouped it already. Oh no, I have to have more than one thing selected. Object group or G, Apple G. This is just so we can move it around. The post-it note travels with it. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Your prompt is a home in outer space. So, Joey. It's close. This is not exactly right, but the more you render it, the more it sort of changes, right? You change your prompt or you modify things, it'll sort of modify it as it goes. Ooh, this one's weird. Look, such little information, but look what it created. Like, weird, right? What was your, if you can, actually, this might, I should have done this. Let's include our prompt as well. So you could put it into your sticky note or something and just go back to your, I'll just add another sticky note onto my thing and just copy the prompt out of your, off of your output. Does that make sense? I just want to know what people are sort of writing. Does it save it? If it doesn't save it, that's fine. I was just curious what that sort of produces.
It does save it on the far right if you go back to that, Chris.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay.
If you go to your image.
If you go to your image, it'll save it on the far right. Is that right?
Yeah, save it on the
here.
right.
Got
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm getting used to playing with these tools as well. Okay. So let's just cruise around, people, as you post these in here. There could be some sort of weird ones, like, oh, look at this weird rocket poster space jam thing, or this geodesic dome. Oh, your geodesic dome is better than my geodesic dome. Dang, wanted a better geodesic. Ooh, like this one. Look at this. Cool. Oh, look at this wigwam. Like, see, it's pretty close. It's pretty, you know, a little bit. Now, let's do the same that we were doing before. Let's just go around and, like, you can leave some prompts or give some thumbs up or give a tag or like whatever. Add some stamps on stuff that you think is pretty interesting. Obviously, the prompt that you have, and the sort of way it renders itself is very different. What's sort of fascinating about Visual Electric in particular is that you do have all these different options of like how it renders itself, right? Whether it's like, here's an example of like, it's a poster. It maybe these are 3 different prompt styles. Is that right? Ooh, is this over here? Oh, you don't have it. I don't have it here. Oh, is this Floyd? I don't know. It's Floyd's. Mark. Add your post-it note to this one, please, so we know who did it. So I can sort of ask you. This is Michelle. But you sort of start to see this like wildly different view, and the info that it sort of takes in helps it sort of render it. Is it 100% accurate to your drawing? No, not necessarily, but that actually may be a good thing for people who don't draw that well, right? Or that spent 5 minutes rendering a sketch, and then you get these outcomes that would be radically different if you had to do this in Illustrator or draw this or paint this by hand, or even be able to render out cartoons. Like, look at this. Like, I don't know if you're a cartoonist, but it's closer, right? Now, the implications of such like speed, I mean, one of the things is sort of that you can sort of see is like, oh, well, I can't, it's not really rendering the house the way that you drew it, or including some of the things that are there, right? But it gets some of the things right, or some of the aspects, and that may be depending on improving that on, is it the drawing that you need, or is it the writing that you've given it? Now, the role that we sort of play as designers in using tools like this is exactly that. What are we going to lean on to communicating the output, right? Do you need the sketch to let the computer make you a better drawing, or do you need better language? And what I sort of love about the AI and design space is that it's not either or. It's not like I draw well or I write well. It's I can do them together. And that is the role that design plays as a whole for making better designers and using tools like this to create whatever, a better concept that you're making, or an output that you produce. And Visual Electric is just one of many of these tools, but the more we play and practice with them, it sort of helps with that. Like, look, here's this, like, it's weird that it gave you 2 eyes instead of 1, right? But did you tell it a 1-eyed creature? Oh yeah, See, weird. Why did it give your creature 2 eyes every time? You know, like there's this point at which it's making up or like obfuscating or not listening to some of the prompts. And so then you may have to go back and like whatever, Joanne or whoever made this one, you're going to have to do that. But the rendering is sort of weird, right? It's sort of amazing little outcome of this. So as I said, if you're rendering more and you want to start adding them in here, or you're playing with these things as they get closer, this also, just like anything else that we design, is iterative. The first execution of your sketch or the first execution of your prompt are probably not going to get you all the way there. But the design world, just like we design and everything else, it's not about making it 100% the solution the first time out the gate, right? It fundamentally is iterative. And if you're using AI tools to iterate and improve, that is a form of practice, right? And it actually allows you to get to your a closer execution and with more speed than we could by ourselves or in our own outputs. Mine is refusing to put a house in space. It's funny, like there's these things that maybe you push it like what it can or cannot do. Obviously, like rendering a dwelling in space is some level of prompt, right? Like look at this one, it's weird. It's like a jellyfish. Did you want it to be a jellyfish? Inhabited by a cosmos. So now it's like, oh, it didn't know what to do with jellyfish, but it turned your little like rock thing like into a jellyfish. Do you see that? That's weird. So it's sort of weird. Like this is what I sort of love about it. And then also I'm like, it makes it a little dangerous. Like how much time are you going to spend on rendering or allowing an AI to render your idea or get your prompt right? But if you're not very good or you're in the process of sketching, early ideation, and you need to see where those possibilities can go, you know, this is where AI and these tools like this are prompted by your ability to sort of draw and extend themselves, and it can be sort of really sort of engaging. Any questions here? I wanted to leave, there's like 3 minutes left, but I wanted to leave a little bit of room to sort of talk about the prompt, and I have a couple of resources to share as well. But I'll just kind of whiz through these at the end as a whole thing. If you're not that into drawing, it's okay, but designers love to draw. There's a really great, if you're not familiar with Michael Beirut, he has sort of committed to using the same drawing notebooks, and he had a exhibition of all of his drawings and all of his sort of graphic design stuff, and they're all in this sort of rack. And he actually had a exhibition of his sort of drawing in that space. If you're not that great at drawing in the UX world, I highly recommend picking up these books. I think Sketching User Experiences by Bill Luxton is like The Design of Everyday Things. It is required reading to have in your library. If you are not able to sketch because prototyping is fundamentally sketching, so there's just that opportunity to do that. And then whatever, with the last 2 minutes, we can if you have a burning question, please come off and ask it.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for this workshop. I was just wondering, are there any tools that you know to take our pencil and pen sketches of low fidelity wireframes into something a little bit more like higher fidelity, whether that be mid or high?
I have seen some experiments done by Meta Labs and some guys at MIT Media Labs. So there are people working on stuff like that. If you have not seen reloom.ai, go check that out. It'll actually sort of scare you a little bit from it if you're a designer. It's fundamentally just repackaging design templates, but at some level, that's sort of what we're doing. But no, not necessarily. And yeah, there's the reloom.io AI that's doing that. I think there's this push to say, hey, we just want to speed up our process. So if I can draw it on a piece of paper and then like the computer can just like render a website, like we're better off. And that may be close. And what I sort of love about this idea of like rendering a quick thing in a notebook or whatever, and then working, like that's where you still need the hand of the maker. Like you can't just like replace all design with a computer, but I'm sure there are tools like that are working on it out there. I just don't know them off the top of my head, but great question. We are at time. I'm willing to go a little longer if people want to stay, but I understand if you got to drop out. I will stay here for a little bit longer, but just wanted to sort of share my output, and then also I'm going to put my book in the chat as well if you're interested in picking that up. I can do this.
Chris, do you know if Visual Electric allows you to do unlimited play, or there's only a certain number of output that it gives you?
I have not played with they're a service, right? So I think they're allowing this to occur for free for a certain amount of time. But at a certain point, if you want to render them at like higher fidelity, or you need to do whatever more, there is a product service associated with this artificial
And
intelligence.
do you have any examples of your sketches for UX UI design that you have incorporated in this AI realm, and you have some solutions to show us?
Hey, Chris,
I
gotta
have not.
drop
No,
real quick.
yeah,
I
I
just
have
wanna
not
say
used
super
AI in
cool.
rendering UX or UI deliverables, mostly as a way at which to render the concepts and ideas like this. I still sort of, I actually think I'm faster than an AI to render, but that's because
Yeah,
that's what
buddy.
I've done for 20 years, right? So
Exactly. Hey, Chris, I
um,
don't know if you can hear me. I got to drop a super cool. Really loved your presentation. Super tight. This is awesome. So, keep it up, man.
yeah, thanks. I hope you guys are liking it. As I was saying, I'm also going to drop my my LinkedIn in the meeting chat. I understand people are going to start dropping off pretty soon. But if you want to connect with me, we can do it there. Just go to the page.
Chris, do you have any other AI that you'd like to recommend that at this moment they don't charge you?
Well, the AI space is like they are racing. They're all racing, and there's a new one every week. So if you, I mean, you could spend your whole time sort of doing that. I recommend going to there was a link in my presentation. Where is it? It's here. Oh, that's for some reason that's not in there. There is, where is it? I'll find it for you and post it. There's a number of articles and outputs on generative AI. Generative AI as a space is highly is a highly volatile, somewhat highly volatile, but it's also potentially very meaningful for the UX and UI world. And I think if as designers, we sort of treat these things as tools and then use them to enhance our own making ability, like that is going to make them viable and useful in our space. And it's going to take practicing with a lot of them to find useful. You see Visual Electric has been able to render some things pretty quick for us, in whatever, 15 minutes. This, like if you were working with an illustrator, this, or just like, with a poster maker, this would have taken weeks, right? So it's sort of a fascinating problem, but also exciting. I'm not necessarily advocating that you have to use all these tools either. If you can make a better drawing and put it into the world that an AI could never produce, do that as well, right? So, but it's the opportunity space of drawing something really fast and then getting an output that you couldn't produce otherwise is a pretty fascinating opportunity. So, here, I'll stop sharing there. I'm just gonna, I have like a couple pages of this stuff. Are there any other questions?
Somebody put this link of relume.io. It's a website
Yes.
design and build faster with AI. Anyone has any thoughts how easy it is to work with it?
I've played with it. It's kind of fascinating. I mean, essentially, it'll produce like your layout pages with through the prompts. Like you're like, I need a e-marketing commerce site that has a 3 commerce. It just like pulls patterns and it'll essentially render web pages or wireframes for you. Just sort of good and bad in this all at once. But yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. As I was saying, I am happy to share more. These things are available if you enjoyed this lecture, which I hope you did. We'll be doing that more, and I hope what everyone sort of takes away is like sketching has a superpower. Lean into it, practice it more, and use AI to engage or extend your sketching ability. Don't replace it with just a prompt tool or something like that. So use them together. And Rosalind, you're right. Yeah, like it's good for ideas and it creates them, but we still have to choose the direction. Like a human being still has to be involved in the making, right? A computer can't make it without us prompting it. And so there's still this massive amount of creativity that goes into drawing and writing it well, and then having the computer render it, which I think is what makes AI exciting. So awesome. Thank you, everyone. I'll just stick around for a little bit, but people are sort of prompting off. If there's any other questions, let me know, but we'll close it out.
Hey, yeah, Chris, hey, this is Joey.
Yes.
I had a quick question. Do you have that Figma presentation? Unfortunately, I didn't see a link where you walk through those pages. Could you put that in the chat?
Yes, absolutely. Here it is, right here. Sorry.
And I did hit you up on LinkedIn, so I'm really grateful that you put this together and shared your thoughts with us. Very, very insightful.
I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, let's go back to Zoom in the chat. Here you go. Here's the Figma file for that. Yes, and as I said, I will sort of be sharing this out in the email and the outputs of the stuff that's there, and I hope everyone sort of enjoyed this. And if there's any other questions, we can go. Otherwise, we'll just sort of get on with our day. But this was exciting.